So in response to me talking about the time I was told I was being watched and assessed within a few months of moving to Kansas City by someone who was on platform leadership, which continued across years of being there, even after I left staff, and that person still looks through my videos to this day. My friend Reba says, the way this tactic is used to keep the purity of the group and certain individuals in line, I remember this stigma well. Well, it's very unfortunate that you know what I'm talking about from what sounds like an experiential knowledge. I hope it's okay to say it's also a little bit comforting because it made me feel like I was crazy for years. I mean, like, legit, I questioned my sanity. It turned me into a person that made sure I knew my motive in everything I was doing because I was being taken aside and accused of having a different motive than I had. But it's really hard to break out of that pattern of needing to get into such a level of self-scrutiny, because I had just moved to this place that claims to have this superior knowledge of and access to God, right? And it's I was in my young 20s, just graduated college. I went to a private Christian high school, private Christian university, was really, really involved in church the whole time in university, and then I moved to work at this parachurch organization, and it's I was still kind of naive to how the world works in a lot of ways because I'd been in bubble, right? But then people older than me who are supposed to, they position themselves as having this expertise and stuff like that, show up and start telling me secret knowledge they have about me, apparently. And this is this stream is, there's a big spiritual authority kind of push and teaching and stuff that I'd been under really heavily at the church I was at before coming. And there's some people like this individual that was doing this to me that really believe in this concept of spiritual authority, and the leaders that are put over a person are there to represent the authority of God, and stuff like that. And so it's just creates this very this implication that if you're not blindly obeying the leader, that you're in rebellion against God, right? And that had already been used to manipulate me up to that point in my life. When I was in college, leaders would tell me things they wanted me to do by saying that they had waited on the Lord and the Lord said it was what I was supposed to do. So I was already dealing with that kind of thing. But pockets of IHOP are no different. They do the same thing. I hear the Lord say, beloved, right? It's not just, hey, let's start a prayer room because it's cool. It's no, God gave Mike Bickle this vision and it is a thing God is doing on the earth, right? It's never just people want to get together and do this thing. It's this is a secret special mandate from God himself. And the implication with that, regardless of whether or not it's knowingly done or intentionally done, the implication is if you're against this, you're against something God is doing. And so, if you even have questions or concerns, it's how dare, the ways of God are higher, right? And I've had friends who have told me stories of leaders that let themselves into their house. And then the excuse was, well, I'm your spiritual authority and you're a worship leader at IHOP, so I'm here to just check up on you. Which, that is something the person that happened to told me. I have the text messages where they told me that. That story was presented to me when I was anonymously sharing about a difficulty I was having with a leader who was being really controlling. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, this is really easy to deal with. All I had to do was threaten to call the cops, and that leader stopped doing that. And I was just excuse me? Which I can't confirm. That's a story I was told. I can't confirm beyond what that person texted me and the conversations I had with that person about it. But it's just oh, this seems to be a pattern of behavior here amongst certain pockets, at least. That seems kind of wrong to me. Like, that does seem like where teachings about spiritual authority will lead naturally, which is why I've gotten to a point where I think that those teachings are really bad teachings. But, wow. What will a person do when they think God has permitted them to do it? Nay, called them to do it, right? Sacred moral task with eternal ramifications, right? Little things like human emotion and comfort pale in comparison to some sacred moral charge that you have to be an authority in someone else's life, leading them on the straight and narrow. So yeah, anything to protect the cause. If we gotta deal with some people we've labeled bitter, offended, backslidden, Jezebel-spirited gossips, then, anything for the purity of our cause, right? So, I really appreciated this comment, but it also makes me super sad that you can relate.